So, um, what we're going to be covering today is some more detail aspects of the actual grow and some of the concepts that you want to be thinking about when you're laying out your grow to be the most efficient and effective in your processes. Whether you are the grower or the sort of the managing position, knowing how to do this is important, and the actual practices that should be going into the way that you lay out the grow, and then also when you're doing the application and the kind of layouts that you can create relatively simply, and I'll give you examples here. And so this example that I have on the screen, and just give me a thumbs up if you can actually see the layout. But I have this 20 by 10 tent layout. And what we have here is the four doors on the outside, the flaps that you'd be able to walk into. And then the circles are the pots, 10-gallon pot size. And then the square with an X would be the lights that are hanging over those pots. And then I denoted the DHU and the AC unit in that section. These are little wavy lines or jagged lines. This is representing the fans and the fan placements. And then this little guy over on the left side, this would be like your air filter. And I was able to put this together on essentially a free app on the phone. Pretty straightforward. You don't have to go out and buy any super expensive software to be able to lay out the dimensions of your grow. And you can do this in a larger size. Like I said, this is a tent, a 20 by 10 tent. And then you could show where the tents would be in the actual space that you have either purchased or leased. And just keep it nice and clean. But if you have software that can do room layouts, then go ahead and use it. If not, there's a lot of free versions and very inexpensive versions that can do the job just fine. And so what I'm looking at here, and the way that I decide or worked out the peak efficiency of the tent is that I don't want to have any or I want to reduce the number of wasted steps in the process and to be able to get through the entire grow in essentially one motion, while at the same time having as many plants as possible within that area, while not allowing the plants to be packed too tightly so that you can't actually reach the plants. Because if you have the plant stacked 4 or 5 deep, to actually get in there and to inspect the plants and to do the defoliation, that becomes very complicated, and slows down the entire process of doing the actual grow, the actual manual labor that needs to be done. You want to make that as easy as possible with the layout. So intelligently thinking this through, what we have is essentially 2 feet on this walkway around each of the flower columns. And so that represents 2 lights worth, and each 4 by 4 square can hold 9 plants in a 10-gallon pot. And that's a pretty good standard to go off of. 10-gallon pot is kind of the minimum size where a soil-based grow really starts getting the benefit of the large pot or soil volume, cutting down how much work that you have to put into to maintain the plants. If you're doing a hydro system, you can probably more easily pack them tighter together, but you also have to think how close those plants are going to be and how much canopy space each plant is going to need and is able to fill out, because it's the canopy space that's really going to be the money-making aspect of the square footage. and you want to make sure that the plants aren't growing over each other and causing more manual labor in trimming and defoliating. Hey Chaz, I see that you popped up. And so this tent layout allows you to walk through the entire process. Imagine you're the grower and you have a foliar spray in a water chapin, and you're going around spraying the plants, inspecting the plants as you go by, and you can continue through. And this is a 2-foot aisle essentially, which is wide enough for you to be able to walk through and inspect, but it's relatively tight, so you're not wasting a lot of space. And you're able to make it through the entire grow area. Now, if in this layout you can fit 54 plants in this one 20 by 10 tent, okay? And then if you really wanted to squeeze in extra plants, at the end of these rows, you essentially have enough space to put another light and up to 9 more plants with that square footage, and you'll be able to access this 2-foot aisle in between the columns, but you'll have to go in and out of the tent, and therefore it's a little bit less efficient with the actual walking around and maintenance. It may be worth it with the extra poundage that you're going to get out of those extra 9 to 27 plants that you can squeeze in there. So think about that in how you want to do it. If you are growing your plants and that extra plant space is worth the backtracking in your steps and the actual process of maintaining them, then that's fine. That's a move that you can do. And then what you would do is essentially move the dehumidifier at the end of a row. The AC would be at the end of this row, and your access points would be either side. Now, if you're looking at this from the standpoint of, say, a metal container, which might be a 20 by 40 metal container prefab scenario, you might only have one door entrance, and so you'd have to reset this arrangement. But the concept is essentially the same: is to make the columns of plants, I would say 3 deep at the most, so that you could reach all the plants and inspect them. Because the most important thing in regards to the health of the plant is that the grower is able to watch them and inspect the plants and make sure that they're not suffering from any diseases, you're not having bugs and infestations, that you're able to foliar spray and maintain a proper light intensity. So you'll have to be able to reach your par meter over the canopy. And so think about all those aspects when laying it out. But based off of the door access space and how you can set up the 3 deep plant columns is some of the best ways to do it. Now, this is with the individual pots, and if you do go the route of soil base, there's another thing I wanted to show people, and let's go. Where is this? One of these planter beds. It's a 4x8, which would give you essentially the same amount of space going across these columns, and this would be an entire 4x8 by 1.5. So it actually gives you a lot more volume of soil, and therefore more battery for essentially your water and nutrients. And then they come with trellis attachments to be able to actually tie the trellis in. So all this fits inside of that tent, and it's a pretty cool system. I actually have one of these, a larger one, for the larger soil volume. But that is another thing that you can insert into this area. Instead of pots, you could put one of those 4x8. And you can also expand it or extend it out even further if you want to use an extender to do the entire column. And that is an efficient way to use it and maximize that space to get a fuller um, uh, grow area and fill up that with as much plants and to get as much poundage out of that, while still being efficient with not overcrowding the plants and allowing each plant to grow to its maximum potential. Okay, now that layout. Does anybody have any questions about that layout? You can type questions in the chat or raise your hand in the audio. But that should make a lot of sense, and this is just a real clean way of looking at it. And hold on, Michael, I'm gonna pull you up real quick and make sure that my recording has your audio too. Um, I can. Are you able to talk now?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, you hear me?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just curious as to I understand the inspection, daily inspection of plants with this design. What about with the what we've learned through the seminars about the light to plant ratio
Uh,
in terms of product?
Yeah, so with this layout, I mean the light to plant ratio, you're not overcrowding it, and so the plants are able to grow bigger, and a larger plant is going to, and with the larger soil, you're going to have a larger root system to be able to draw in the nutrients to actually fill out that plant and pack on the poundage. And so with one light that is roughly 4 by 4, you and if you another way people look at it is pounds per watt, and so 1.5 pounds per light and these lights would be like a 700 watt LED. And that is a pretty good ratio to be factoring it off of, pretty consistent, and essentially what how the math of our expectation from what we talked about in the summit comes from.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, not a problem. Which actually that kind of leads into the next part, and I wanted to give you some tools that I use, and I'm going to give you straight from the source of it. That I am a big advocate of Build a Soil and the things that they teach in regards to the soil-based methods, and so I wanted to pull up actually two resources that they do, that I'd recommend people take a look at and to start to understand how they, how to maximize the growth of your plant. And this document here. You can find it on the Build a Soil website. And it's not like Build a Soil. They're not like a sponsor or something like this. This is just resources that I use, and I want to pass it on to you directly. And so this is sort of the Build a Soil method. A couple different rules that they use with building living soil, and they talk about the pot size and having a big enough volume, and so that larger planter is kind of a better, is more good, in this concept. And just going through and understand how the microorganisms and the earthworms, or the worms in general, different nutrients and that type of stuff really pull into this plan. And a lot of the things that we taught you in the soil grow really resonate and are very similar to what is done here. And so this is a good one to go over and just have as a resource. And then there was another one that talks about the actual nutrient and additives that you can add on, and different time periods that you would add them into the soil. And this is same concept as with the hydro. It's just hydro is more isolated nutrients. And more important to focus on the pH, because there's nothing in the water that's going to um, uh, allow the or keep the pH from changing with the additive of nutrients, and so you have to keep that more in the forefront of your mind. But this is actually sort of a good rules to go by as a standard protocol. For nutrient addition, and these actually have some products that Build a Soil offer, and I always find it easier, especially when you're just starting out, is can I go and order it and have it delivered to me, and still be a really high quality product, and that's one reason that I like telling students about what they have. So Aaron, you have a question? Are you able to? Um, should be able to unmute you. Yeah,
Oh,
go for it.
I just typed it in to ask a question. I'm not seeing the documents that you said you're showing.
Oh no. Okay, let me see. Uh, let me see which screen I'm sharing. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So now, do you have?
Yes.
Yeah. So okay. So this one. So reset. Um, this is the build a soil, sort of the rules that they've, what is the build a soil system, and this isn't exactly what we teach you in the summit, but it correlates to it a lot, and there is a lot of things that I agree with in here, and it's a great resource that I think it helped me understand living soil a lot better. And like I said, this is on the buildasoil.com website, which I mentioned during the summit, and the different things that they talk about, using the different watering types, different schedules for watering, and then let me see this one. Make sure I'm sharing the right one. Share this. Okay, cool. And then this one. This is the uh, you know complete schedule for the nutrients and amendments that you can put in. You don't have to do all of this, but these are all things that the people at Build a Soil would recommend. So like they talk about the 15 gallons. Really 10 gallons is where you start seeing the benefit of having the larger soil volume, but they are a soil company, so keep that in mind. And these are all their products. But the time frames and the amounts that you put in during those times, I think this is actually a very good base to start off of. And trying to hit that pound and a half per light, you want to make sure that you are maximizing the growth potential of each of those plants, and using um, these additives and the quality schedule is a big part of that. And then let me see what else we got. So this was the planter, the actual big um, 4x8 planter that you'd be able to switch in with the trellis stands. I think this is a cool product that I've used and is great for a large volume of soil if you're not planning on moving them around. So if you're going to grow from veg phase into flower in the same tent, then using a larger system that's more permanent, you're going to get better results because you have a larger soil volume to it. And then let's go. Um, and actually, so this is directly with the question that Michael had brought up, so that the formula that we based the stuff off of. You have your lights, and you have your pound and a half per light. So if you were to max out that tent, you would have about 9 lights in total in that 200 square foot tent. Multiply that by 1.5 pounds per light, and the one that I showed you is what I think is a little bit more efficient in the actual daily use of that tent would be 6 lights. But you would take that into your equation, this one, into your equation to factor that out. And when you break it down, that's a real effective way to use it. Now, the 2000, the prices in New Mexico and in Oklahoma have diverged decently enough that you want to, using 2000 for New Mexico is still pretty good, but you want to get updated prices for Oklahoma, so that you can make sure that you're getting accurate numbers to expect from that. And then this is actually another Build a Soil schedule, and this one also available on their website, but is a good template at the very least. The way that I build out my scheduling when I'm growing, really when I'm doing any type of indoor grow and scheduled growing, you're going to want to break it down into this type of layout for your grower and for yourself if you're the manager, and look at all the different additives that you have, or if you're doing a hydroponics, you want to have the different nutrient additives, whatever nutrient mix that you have. If it's like the Fox Farms Dirty Dozen, that's a good standard mix that's still very, very comprehensive, that you would break it down into the different weeks going into early veg, late veg, into your flower phases, and then noting when you start doing light deprivation and that type of thing. And so that's just another resource that I would suggest as a good template to go off of. And if you don't have a system, then use this as your starting system and start learning your own plants. The specific strain that you're growing is going to behave a little bit differently, and you can adjust and tweak it to your specifics, and make the changes on a scheduled layout, much like this. And that's the main part that I wanted to get out to you guys, so that you have these resources, the type of things that I use to build out my schedules. This was essentially where I started from, and then I customize it to my specifics to make it my own. Okay. Any questions about that? But I hope that was helpful to give you the ideas of how to lay out the actual grows. This is a little bit more specific to hands-on, and the scheduling concepts, the organization that you're going to want to have and put together, and a couple different resources that might actually make that very simple, to copy paste and to use as models, to put together a system. Mike, I know you're very organized. I've seen your spreadsheets and your layouts, so you're not going to have much trouble with this. But I know that's it was a part that took me a while to really get a hang of, to plan everything out and to lay it out on paper to then be able to execute it on. Okay. If you've got any other questions, yeah, go ahead, guys.
So, with the layouts,
Yes.
when we are doing our license and we give them the layout,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that we are required to stick to, or can we, modify it?
It can be modified. I mean, you want to update it if you massively change the layout. Part of it is just making sure that it follows the basic requirements of the grow, and that you have a plan, that you're not just winging it. But yeah, with most of that stuff, you might start out with 200 plants, and you plan to expand, and then your layout's going to have to change, and so you just update that, and as you update um, the the grow that you have, the amount that you have, you update that with uh, your uh, license information, and when they ask for it, you have it already.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, did you have anything to add to that, or any other questions?
Oh, I don't believe so at the moment. No.
Okay.